The premium SUV segment has a new competitor. The Jaguar F-Pace has landed in Europe ahead of its Australian arrival in July. Now this thing hopes to set a new dynamic benchmark for its segment. I've got some absolutely brilliant roads in front of me. Let's go check it out.
The F-Pace marks some seriously uncharted territory for Jaguar as the firm's first ever SUV. And already it's making some pretty big headlines, honing in specifically on the Porsche Macan and BMW X4 by claiming to bring a new dynamic benchmark in the premium SUV segment. Much like those products, the F-Pace range will start at $74,000 plus on-road costs when it lands in Australian showrooms around July. 5 different model grades will be offered across 3 different engines. Importantly, it's the F-Pace's interior where Jaguar could rattle a few cages.
Now size-wise, the F-Pace fits between the Porsche Macan and the BMW X5, so inside there's actually quite a bit of room. The rear seat in particular will comfortably fit 2 adults abreast on longer journeys. Up front, it's a really nice place to be. You've got a nice selection of materials from the Alcantara suede in the headlining through to the red stitching in the dashboard and the plush leather seats. Now interestingly, Jaguar says 1 in 3 buyers of this F-Pace will be female, so they've catered to those demands as well. Generally, the car's got really excellent storage all round. One initial criticism with this car is just the lack of rear vision. The rear window itself is quite compromised, there's bulky C-pillars in place, and the mirrors aren't the biggest for this segment. But in saying that, there's all sorts of cameras and technology to offset those factors. So I'm going to take it out on the road and see how it performs.
On top of these features, the Jaguar boasts a 650 litre boot with a temporary spare tyre, along with split folding rear seats which fold flat to the floor and enable 1.8 metres worth of free cabin space. Topping the F-Pace lineup is the 30SC variant driven here. Armed with a 3-litre supercharged V6 petrol engine that makes 280 kilowatts and 460 newton metres, the petrol looms as the real performance offering of the F-Pace bunch, and what a first impression it makes.
Now for a vehicle that boasts 81% all new parts, the F-Pace feels very familiar, like any other Jaguar in the lineup in fact, in its driving demeanour and the way it handles itself in sportier stuff as well. For one, the steering is really sharp and accurate. It definitely has a real sporting pretense to the way it goes about its business. It's immune to mid-corner kickback, it has a nice fluid action around the tiller, and it helps instill confidence in the F-Pace right from the outset.
Underneath, the F-Pace employs double aluminium wishbone front suspension that is claimed to deliver 50% greater lateral stiffness than the Macan. Integral link rear suspension resides at the rear of the car.
Similarly, it's got really nice bump compliance. This particular car that we're in at the moment has 22-inch wheels, so huge wheels, big tyres, and even withstanding those factors, it's quite good. Very sporty and firm ride, but I think once you get into more everyday 20-inch wheels, 19-inch wheels, this car will be completely livable on Australian roads, but we'll hold our final verdict until we get to test the car in July. Elsewhere, the body control is really good. I think Jaguar may be over-egging it a little bit by taking on the Macan. Because the Macan is that little bit smaller, the F-Pace isn't quite as pointed or dynamically capable through the bends as the Porsche. But in saying that, it is very good. If you drive it the right way, it's definitely a willing accomplice on a tight, winding mountain road.
Jaguar is also offering a 6-cylinder diesel version of the F-Pace, along with a 4-cylinder diesel. Australian models will send drive to all 4 wheels via an 8-speed transmission.
Now the star of the show in this car is undoubtedly that 280 kilowatt tune petrol V6 engine. It's a supercharged engine, the same as that found in the Jaguar F-Type, which is perhaps why the F-Pace feels so familiar on the road. Now like the sports car, it has that beautiful, endearing soundtrack. Listen to that. The engine finds peak power from 6,500 RPM and peak torque from 4,500 RPM. Now if you're wondering what that means on the road, well, it really reaches its straps at the upper end of the dial. What we found today is that from about 5,000 RPM in particular, the car just gets a second wind and it pulls and pulls and pulls, and all the while you've got this beautiful raughty soundtrack coming out those quad tailpipes.
What it lacks in outright dynamics, the High Rider makes up for with refinement, size and practicality, a combination that could go unmatched at this end of the market.
Jaguar says the F-Pace is the most relevant product in its lineup to Australian customers, and you can see why. It has great spatial qualities, it's very compliant, it has all the style. I think this could be a real winner for Jaguar in Australia.